Hey everybody. Today I'm going to take a few minutes and go through a process that I think might be helpful in completing your logo assignments and demonstrate some of these tools so that you can have that as a resource as you continue with your work at home. So I'm going to open up Illustrator and demo some of these tools that you might use to complete the logo assignment. So here we have my desktop, and I want to open Adobe Illustrator. One way to do that is to come up here to the little Adobe Creative Cloud symbol and click right here, Open Illustrator. There we go. I could also come down here to my tray on my MacBook and click on Adobe Illustrator right here. Or on a Mac computer, we can click on Go and Applications, which will open your Applications folder on your computer. And I'll roll right on up here to Adobe Illustrator 2025 and click on Adobe Illustrator 2025. Now I'll go ahead and click on File, New, choose Print, Letter is fine. Look how it says 612 by 792 PT right here. That's points. I'm going to come over here under the preset details and call this Parker Logo. And right here where it says points, I'm going to change that to inches. So it'll say 8.5 by 11 inches. Right? It says points over here. I changed the unit to inches over here, and now I see it's 8.5 by 11 inches. All this default stuff is good, and click on Create. Now I have a new document. I'm going to show you the process that I would use to complete this project. To bring in my image for tracing, I'm going to click on File, Place. I'll double click this Birdhouses for tracing image. And now I've got it like clipped to my cursor here. And I can just drop it wherever I want it to be. I'll try right up here in the corner of the document. Whoa, it's really big. I'm going to press Command minus a few times to fit this whole thing in here. See over here is my document window, and this image file is way bigger than that. So I can click and hold on the file that I just placed, that image file. I'm clicking and holding. I can drag it around to bring it more in line with my visible document. Notice I'm in the selection tool right here. That's what allows me to move it around. See this sort of castle logo next to my cursor. That means I'm moving this piece. Now I want to shrink this down so it all fits. So let's go ahead and roll the cursor over here to one corner of the image that I've placed, and I'll hold down Shift to make it proportional and drag it down to make it smaller. Come on and click and drag on the image and move it back onto where I want it in the document. Not quite small enough. So I'll roll my cursor over here to the corner again, hold down the Shift key, and shrink it even more. Okay, that's a good starting point. I'll press Command 0 to bring my document back up onto my screen, or click on View, Fit All in Window. Okay, now I can see there's my document down here. And here is my image. I'm going to press Command minus a couple of times again to get it all here on the board. So now I have this image kind of where I want it to begin tracing in my document, but this image file behind is just too big, and I don't want that. So I'm going to crop out the rest of the image that I don't need. And to do that, I'll click on Object, Crop Image. Cropping a linked file embeds a copy. The original file is not affected. That means this Birdhouse's JPEG that I brought in won't be changed. Okay. I can grab on one of these corners down here, and I'm just going to drag this up, to put it in all within the bounds of my document. I don't really need even all of this image that I'm keeping now. All right, just put it inside the document. Drag it up, press Enter, there we go. Command 0 brings it all up on the screen. Now I have everything I need to begin my tracing. So again, that was Object, Crop Image. Now I want to begin my tracing. When I trace something in Illustrator, I always start with layers. Layers stack on top of each other and allow you to make what are called non-destructive changes to an image. It also helps you in isolating parts of an image as you work on them so you don't misclick as often. For this one, I clicked on the Layers tab over here on the right, clicked on the Layers tab, and then I double click on the word Layer 1. I'm going to call this background image, and I'll click OK. Now, click on the square with the plus in it to make a new layer, double click Layer 2 and type Birdhouses, and enter. This way, that this image, this background image, is on a different layer and I won't affect it working on the birdhouses layer. I'll also click right here in this little empty area to lock the layer. That means I can't select it, I can't work on it until I click to unlock it there. And that way I don't get confused. Now all of my tracing is going to happen on this birdhouses layer. Under View, I'll click on Zoom In. I can see here Command plus is the keyboard shortcut for zooming in. So zoom in, Command plus to get it a little closer. I decided I'm going to start a birdhouse company. I'm going to make birdhouses. So my logo is going to be one of these birdhouses. And I'll start with this one here. And I'm only going to use basic shapes to do this. So here is the rectangle shape tool, rectangle tool. And I'll click this out. Kind of start up here at the top. I'll show you why I do that in a little bit. There's one shape. And now I'll click over here, back on the Properties tab, tells me, what's going on with each of these shapes. I don't want that to be filled. A fill is what's inside of an enclosed path. So in this case, it's white. I'll click on this little no symbol here and have no fill. The stroke is what's on the outside of the path, right around here. So when I click on black and click off of it, we can see that it's made a black stroke around that path we were just working on. Now to change the shape of this rectangular object that we've made, I can click and drag on any of the corners to drag them down. I can roll up here till my cursor changes to the curvy arrow and click and hold and change the rotation of it. Or to change the rotation, I can come over here and put in different numbers. But I prefer to eyeball it, so that's what I do. Now I can roll my cursor here onto the middle of it, get the little castle symbol on my cursor, and kind of drag it around to fit a little better. Okay. Neat. And now I will change my shape to the polygon tool to make this triangle shape at the top. I'll start over here at this edge and kind of do that. Well, that didn't work. That's way too many edges. So now to change that into a triangle, I come up here and find this little, put on my move tool or selection tool and drag this over here for you. Right, so now we have this guy here, this little diamond, and the plus minus symbol appears on our cursor. I can click and hold on that and change the number of sides of this polygon. 3. That's how many sides I want. I click and rotate this around. And now I've still got my selection tool, and I'll move on to this dot in the middle and it turns into the little castle. I'll click and drag this onto the top of my birdhouse. Not quite right. I'll click here, or I'll roll my cursor over here until I get the the move symbol to squeeze and manipulate it. I'll rotate it a little bit. I'll come up here until the arrow changes to up and down, and I can squeeze it down some. Maybe stretch it out a little bit. Get my castle back, and I can line it up in all the ways. Okay, so now one of the reasons I use a layer is so that when I can click on the layer tab here and click on the eyeball on the image and see what I've got. Okay, it kind of looks like an arrow with the top collapsed in. And one of the tools that I didn't show you in class but is extremely helpful now is I've put these shapes together, and now I want them to be a single shape. So I can use the shape builder tool over here. It looks like a fallen over snowman. I'll click on it, and it won't let me do anything because nothing is selected. So let me go back to my selection tool. I'm on my birdhouse's layer. See how it's highlighted. And I'll click and drag out to select everything. I've selected this rectangle and I've selected this triangle. Now I can click on the shape builder tool and say, walk over here, and I see as I roll my cursor onto different parts of this image, it shows me what that area is. And so I want the top of the triangle and all these parts here. And I see the plus there on the attached to my cursor. That means add this part of the shape to the shape that we're now building. And I'll just click and hold to draw around all of the parts that I want to make part of this single shape. And there we go. I can click on my selection tool, and now when I click on these other parts, they've now been eliminated, right, from my shape. But they're neat little triangles. I'm still going to keep them. I'm not going to delete them yet. We use Shape Builder to make a new shape by combining existing shapes. I'm going to show you that again. I press Command Z a few times to go back, back, back. So again, I've got two shapes. I've gone back, taken steps backward. Two shapes, a rectangle and a triangle. I'll put that triangle back where it belongs. And with my selection tool on, I'll hold down the Shift key and select both shapes. One is on top of the other one. Now let's say I want to eliminate these two upper triangles. So I'll click on the Shape Builder tool again, and I will hold down the Option key. That turns the cursor into a minus. And right here, I'll click on that. And right here, I'll click on that. Voila. There we go. That's even better, I think. And now I've deleted those two upper parts of this rectangle. I have a nicer shape, but I want to get rid of these three leftover triangles too. So I'm going to use the Shape Builder again. And there. Okay, now I have a little hat on top of my birdhouse. And it still has its little line here. I'll click on Layers again and the eyeball to show me my picture. And what else do I have? Actually there's a little square here that I want to create. So I'll go back to my shape tools, click on that, rectangle again, and start here on a corner. And it looks like a square, right? So I'll hold down the Shift key to make it a proportional square. I'll come here and rotate it to oops. When that cursor changes, it's going to do something different. So here is the rotation tool. And now I'll roll here onto my center of this object. You see how it has the castle thing and it's on the center of that path. So that's what that was about. Rotate it, maybe make it a little bigger. Cursor up here, move it over a sec. All right, let's see what we've got. I'll go into layers, I'll turn off the photo, that's good. Let's go ahead and make that circle too, the little entrance for the bird. So I'll click on that shape tool again, hold the ellipse tool, and with the circle tool, or ellipse tool rather, if you hold down the same as the square, you can make any shape of a ellipse. If you hold Shift, it'll make a perfect circle. And if you hold the Option key, it'll draw that from the center. And then Shift for a perfect circle from the center. So I'll come over here, I'll get in the center of this bird hole, hold down the Option key and the Shift key to make a perfect circle, and draw it out from there. Good enough. Click and drag it where I want it to be. Okay. And while we're at it, let's put these little screws in too. So I'll hold down the Option key, draw one little screw head, two. Right, I'm making a logo for my birdhouse business, my homemade birdhouse business, so it's going to look homemade. So I've made a few little screw heads. Let's go ahead back to my layers and turn off the background photo so we can see what's happening. Cool, all right. And now what I want to do is kind of get rid of this line here in the middle that's part of the triangle. I don't really have to get rid of it. It's that stroke that we see that is being visible. And so what I can do is create a fill inside of this square. Right here where it says fill and has the slash through it, I'll click on it, and maybe I'll make that this color brown. Right now we've hidden that black line behind. And I circle here to get let the birds get in. I'll make that black. And we don't really need a stroke. There we go. Maybe now I'll fill this one in too. Oh wait, let's go back to our picture. I'll click on the layers again. And let's look at my picture. Oh, I want to put some of these little slats in. So to do that, I can come back to the shape tool and use the line segment tool. And so then I'll just kind of like click and drag these out. And click and drag it out. Click and drag it out. Boop. Click and drag it out. I have made those first two a little long. Zoom in a little bit. See what I'm doing. Go back to my selection tool. Select this line here. Yeah, let's go on and drag it up here. There we go. And this one too. You can see I'm not too worried about making it exactly three-dimensional seeming. I'm just, making a logo, something simple. So back to my line segment tool. And click and drag one out. Click and drag out a line. Click and drag out a line. Right there. I'll press Command 0 to bring it all back on screen, and I will click on the eyeball and show us what we have so far. Command +++ to see it. Looks pretty neat. I'm not wild about the way the roof looks anymore. The basic triangle just isn't going to cut it for me. And so I'll click on the selection tool, and there's my triangle. Under layers, if I click on this little caret here, it shows me all of the objects in that layer. And you can see right here is this little red square. That means that's the one that's selected now, right? If I click on something else, it changes to that thing. So I want this triangle selected, right? It's really like multiple, it's not a triangle at all. It's different rectangles. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, because I don't want to get rid of it altogether, I'm going to turn the eyeball off so I can't see it. And I'll lock it. So it's just there, it's just out of the way. I don't have to think about it again. And I'm going to come back to my shape tools, back to the rectangle, zoom in another tick or two. And now I'm going to do this as rectangles. So I just drew one out, and I'm going to turn it around to sort of match the angle here, and then drag it out. Now I want the same thing, for the other side. With this new rectangle still selected, I'll choose my selection tool, roll into it, hold down the Option key, and click and drag out, and then I get a copy of it. Now I'll rotate this one the way I want it to be, get my little castle part of the icon, drag that up in here. You can see I've got them overlapping, but I'm going to fix that here in a second with the tool. What do I want to do now? Well, with my shapes, I can see this one here kind of does look like a square to me, so I'm going to kind of draw a square and rotate it. I'm getting a little too precious about my logo here. It probably doesn't need to be so realistic, I guess, if that's the right word. But, I enjoy what I do, so I'm going to go for it. Yeah, okay, that's cool. And on this side, how will I represent that? Right, that one looks more like a triangle again. So I'll click on the polygon tool, kind of draw out a little shape for myself, grab onto the little diamond here, take it down to 3 sides, get my little castle and kind of move this in here, get my rotation, and just rotate it around and see how I like that. And so yeah, I'm just clicking on the different edges and kind of moving them around to see what I get. Now I can use the direct selection tool, and what that allows me to do, see how all these little squares are the same color? That means that all of them will be changed if I click and drag or make another change. What you can do with the direct selection tool is double click on one of these anchor points and see how these got turned white or empty. Now I can click and drag on this single point and move it around. I double click on this one, kind of drag it over here to match up a little bit. So yeah, the direct selection tool helps a lot. Okay, I've got all these shapes where I want them to be, but obviously I can't be using these strokes. I'll click on this one over here, click back on the properties panel. I'm going to turn the stroke off on this, and I'll just make it a dark brown color to go under the eave. Oops, that was the stroke again. My bad. Click on it, selection tool, clicked on it. Stroke, we want off, no stroke. Fill is what I want, and I want it to be this real dark color. That's not dark enough. I'll go with that. But right, that's not how it looks. I need this to move sort of back in the design. I've got the square is highlighted, right? The path is highlighted, it's active. I'll click on arrange and then send to back. Now it's behind everything else. And now I'll do the same for the other side. I'll click on that triangular path. I'll turn the stroke off. I'll click on the fill color thumbnail and I'll make it the same color as across the way here. Now I'll click on arrange and send to back. Now that's in the back of everything else. Now I need to clean up this kind of mess up here. So I'll click on this one and shift click on the other side of the roof. I'm going to leave a thin stroke on the roof just for the effect's sake. And I'm going to click on the word stroke itself, the word stroke. And on profile, I'm just going to change it to something else so they look different. I'm also going to fill this color. That looks like a really dark green, so we'll just go with that. No, ooh. How about that one? Still doesn't look great, but we're going to go for it. Now I'll come back with my selection tool again, click on one and click on the other. I want to make this a single shape, right? This is now my roof. So I'll click on that shape builder tool and drag this up and then drag it over here. Now I have it. That's a single shape. Ta-da. Actually, I can come up here now. It looks like some stuff got left out. I'll just click delete on that. I'll grab my roof, put it back on. And you see how that stroke profile kind of changed the way, so it doesn't look just like a straight line anymore. Move it around. I'm going to do the same thing stroke-wise on this one too. I'll click the word stroke, come down to profile, and just change how it looks. So let's see the difference. I'll turn off the background image. Oh, now I can see some holes I've left, things like that. This looks like a jail door. First thing I notice, I'm going to go ahead and click on this path right here and press Command plus and just drag that up to anchor there better. I'll press Command 0 to bring it all back on the screen, but that's not what I want. I want Command plus to bring just this bit up. Let's see what do I have to do. All right, so some of my shapes aren't exactly jiving. Command plus, have my selection key on, click on this triangle. What I want to do is put this behind, fill in this white spot here. And so I'll just try this. Well, doing the whole thing isn't working, right? Command Z to undo. I'll try the direct selection tool, double click on one point, and then just drag that point. That works better. I'll click on the selection tool again, and here I'll click on this path, Command minus, see what I'm doing, and I'll just bring it up. Alright, that looks a little better. And remember, this started out as a rectangle, so let's go back here to properties and we'll put a fill on it as well. Alright, getting there. Now let's click on each of these lines Shift click to select all of them. And we'll click on stroke and we'll change that to something else. Change that stroke profile to something else. We'll make it a 1 pixel stroke and click off of it. Oh yeah, that looks really cool. These little screw holes, click on one, shift click to select the other. These are all a little too uniform looking. And maybe what we want to do here is make the stroke as thin as possible and change their fill to something a little more believable. All right, I've still got them all selected. I will click on, it still stood out a little bit too much for me. I'm going to make all of these screw heads the same color as the house. And if I want to match the color exactly, I can come over here and click on this eyedropper. So I've got the screw head selected, and I'm just going to click this eyedropper in here in this filled area. And now they're all the same color. The stroke is still a little... Let's take that down, make it as thin as possible. 0.25. Click on this again. Oh, okay. I'll change the width profile and see what we get. That's a little better. And while we're at it, I'm going to click on these two things. Everything else is stroked in here. So I'm going to give these a stroke as well. And change that profile. Let's back out. Well, that's looking pretty good. One of the things we talked about with vector art is I'm gonna press Command 0 to bring everything back on the screen, as this is really small now. What I want to do is with my selection tool, click and drag over the whole thing, and it's vector art, so it's scalable, infinitely scalable. I can come here, hold down my shift key to make it all proportional, and drag it up, and it all got bigger and looks just as nice in the bigger size as it did in the smaller. One of the things we talked about with our logos is always start with a black and white version, because it's a requirement. You have to have a black and white version of any logo. I'll press Command 0, and you can see I've upscaled this image to make it much larger without really losing quality. Now I'll press Command minus to get a little bigger view. Move this over here. I want to make multiple versions now, and I especially want to make a black and white version. So rather than just work on one, I'm going to duplicate this so that I can make another one, a different version. So I'll click on the Artboard tool here. And then in this, now I can see this whole thing is labeled. It tells me the size of the artboard, some information, its name. Actually, I'll call this one color. Name it. I can change the orientation here too. Vertical or horizontal. And actually, I like it this way. I'm going to do it this way now. And I want to make a copy. So I've got my cursor inside of the artboard. I'll hold down the Option key, changes the cursor to these arrows, and I'll drag it over here. Any hidden or locked objects in the artboards will not be moved, and that means the background image will not come over. That locked photo image won't come over. I don't think I need it anymore, so that's okay. I click OK. And now I have an identical version right here. Now I'm really into this now. I've really come a long way, and I want to note that I haven't saved it in a while. See this asterisk up here? That means the document is unsaved. So I'm going to press Command S to make sure it gets saved. I'm going to save it on my computer. Make sure I save it as an Adobe Illustrator file, because that means I can work on it still. Save. All good. Okay. So I have two identical artboards, two identical works on either artboard. I want one of these versions to be black and white. So I've got this one named Color. This one's named Color Copy. I'll come over here in the artboard menu and call it black and white. So now when I come back to it, I can get an idea of what's what. What is my thinking here? I'll press Command 0 to bring it all up on screen. It zoomed in on the active artboard. And now I can see my whole birdhouse here. I'm going to click on Layers and my Selection tool. You see when I'm clicking on the background photo, it's not there on this one. It didn't carry over. So I have my Selection tool open, and I'm just going to click and drag around the whole thing. Remember, it was the fill that gave this thing color. So I'm going to come here under the Properties menu, having selected everything. Under Properties, I click on the fill thumbnail. It says question mark because I have a bunch of different fills selected. What I want to do here is click on None. There I have a black and white logo. Problem though, you can see it's all kind of messed up. I can see things I shouldn't be able to see. I can fix that here with the Shape Builder tool. So I'll go on and click Command plus a few times, and I'll click on under Layers. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look for the ones that I want to select. This one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, I think. And what I want to do is make this central shape one shape. I'll click on the Shape Builder tool and do that. All right, there we go. Oops, one more little bit. Boop. Cool, I've got this part now. Let's see, I click on my selection tool again, and I'll click on this shape and this shape. Zoom in a little bit to make sure I get what I want. Take out this deal. Shape Builder. There we go. Click on the selection tool again, and I'll click on this shape, right, which is this big triangle, and this shape. And I want to get rid of this part here. No, I don't. I want to get rid of this part here. Shape Builder. There we go. I'm going to click on the selection tool, and right here on this bit, see how it sticks up? I don't like how that is. Oh, that's not even part of my shape. Click, delete, delete. All right, there. And I'll do the same on this side. I'll click on this, and I'll click on this. Click on my Shape Builder tool. Boop. 1 and 2, shift selecting. Click on my Shape Builder tool. Made that. Looks like I need to click on my selection tool again, click on this line, lower it down, click on this Shape Builder tool. Now let's see what we got. Command 0 to see the whole thing on screen. Hey, looking pretty good. This thing here is a little bit bothersome, so I'm going to Command plus 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 plus. Oh, and you know, I just noticed too, I clicked on this. This stroke is a little thick, so let's, yeah, 2.7 is too much. Maybe just a little over 1. Click on it. Oh, let's see if we want to change that stroke style. All right, I'm going to take this. I don't like how that sticks up, and so I'm going to just kind of do that right there. I don't need all the lines to line up, but some of them. So we were working on this little booger here, and so what's happening here is I clicked far away from it, but there's this stroke is 2.7 points, and it's a tiny little thing left over from joining shapes. So delete that. We should have a pretty good thing. Okay, there's a black and white logo, and you can see, so that object, remember the birdhouse circle, that object is still there, but I removed all of the fills, and so I didn't have a fill on that ellipse, this circle here. So it's still showing up. The path exists, but it doesn't have any information in it. Right? You can see no fill, no stroke. So I'm going to give it its stroke back. Make it a little thicker, and change that stroke style. All right. So yeah, this thing is still messing with me. I don't like it. And so I'm going to click on the direct selection tool here. And I just want to change this anchor point. And I double clicked on it to make it the only filled in one, right? These are clear. And I click and hold, and I'll just drag it back in here. That'll do. I'll just, I'll even for thoroughness, I'll drag it up into the corner. Then I'm going to come back and figure out what this one is. Yep, I've now selected this other path. Click on the direct selection tool. Double click on that point to make it the only one active. And just drag it over here to kind of match up with that one. And now I've seen this line too, and I've double clicked here with direct selection and just drag it this way. Don't know what that is. Drag it this way too. Okay, now all the lines I want to hide are hidden. Command 0. The illusion of this thing being behind is now compromised. So Command plus, direct selection tool again. I'll click on this square because I want to make it inside of this line of the roof line. And there's another line in here from our shape joining earlier. These don't quite align. Command plus plus to see what I'm doing. Yeah. All right. I selected a couple of those points and deleted them. Command 0. That's a little better. Well, one more time. So now to fix this roof overhang, I'm going to click on my direct selection tool again. Click on this doodad. Drag it up here. Good. Command S to save. And I'll take my selection tool. Right, I want to get rid of this bit right here. Click on my rectangle. Click on this area. Click on my shape builder tool and do this. There it goes. Now I think I've got it the way I want it. Command 0 to see it on the screen. Yes. Maybe these screw heads are more than I need to see. You can see how I've selected those 3 ellipses, and I don't want to delete them in case I want them back, but I'll just take them out. Well, now that looks like a pretty good Birdhouse company logo. And I have a second version that's this color. And while we're at it, why don't I click on Artboards again? I'll come up here to my color one and choose Option. Hold down Option to make the arrows turn like this. Make another copy. And I will click on the selection tool, select all of it, and come up here and edit colors, recolor artwork. So here's a way that we can just create another version. Let me double click on this green here and I'll change that to something else. And just by, see how the little balls of color all changed. And what's happening is it's maintaining the color relationships. You remember we talked about triads of color and how primary colors relate to each other and secondary, complementary. And so that's what this is doing, is it's linked to maintain the relationship between the colors. We don't have to do that. I can unlink the colors and just change them to click and drag on these dots. You know, I have 4 colors in this image, so I can change them all to something else. I can also click Generative Recolor, select an option if I want, enter my own colors, and click Generate. There we go, a nice red one. Sure, I'll go with that one. And then if I press Command 0, I can see the whole thing on the screen. Once again, I don't think I like these screw holes, so I'm shift clicking on them to take them out. Now I can choose View, Fit All in Window, and I can see 3 versions of my Birdhouse logo traced from an image of a birdhouse using simple shapes. So I hope that was helpful, walking through all those steps. I didn't put any text in this one, but I'll come to that maybe next time. And now all we have to do is choose File, Save As, Save on your computer, Parker logo, you might put Done. Under Format, choose Adobe PDF and save it. All of these defaults are fine. Click Save PDF, and it's done. All you have to do now is upload it to Blackboard, and I will grade it. So thanks for your attention, patience. I hope that's helpful, and I will see you in class.